We are back. Welcome back to Talking Tillies. This is a show about your Matildas. If you are joining us because this is the first time you've ever heard of us, hello. My name is Josh. I'll be your host here. I am joined by the brains and the glory of the podcast, Michelle Morris and Cody Ojeda, who will give you all the actual insight into everything. And I'm just here to fluff around and make it look pretty. Michelle, how are you this week? We're coming off the back of a couple of friendlies that have gone wild. How are you feeling looking forward to Paris?
I am sick, is all I have to say.
That's how we're starting our Olympic coverage off. Very under the weather. We are all tired. Cody, besides tired, how are you this week?
Oh, man, I'm about to go on holiday, so I feel bloody good.
Let's go.
It's a very, very good period for me where I don't have to spend 8 hours of my day at my day job.
That's what we love, right? For all of you listening at home, this is our introduction to the Olympics. We're going to run down the squad that's been announced, how the Olympics actually work for everyone that's out there, so everybody's understanding what type of tournament we're actually about to run into, and then a few little tidbits to wrap it up this week. We'll be back in another couple of weeks just before the Olympics do actually start deep diving into things, but this is just our little, hey, welcome back. This is what to look forward to episode. So good to have you guys here. Stick around. If you are on YouTube, make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. On Spotify, you can also rate the podcast. Make sure you're doing that. Leave us a nice little comment. We love that. And if you're listening anywhere else that allows you to rate, please jump down and do that right away. If you're new here and you don't already follow us on socials, you can find us across everything on Talking Tillies or at Talking Tillies. We will be very active during the coming months, and I'm really excited to share everything with you. So let's dive into this squad. Obviously, we just come off the back of a 23-person squad with friendlies against China, cutting it down to 18. I think the biggest surprise is probably Charlie Grant missing out, who's been one of those mainstays in the squad recently. But let's start at the back. We'll walk through kind of section by section. Cody, what are your thoughts on between the sticks? How solid are you feeling between Macca and Micah? What are your thoughts here on our GKs?
Well, it's our two best goalkeepers. I think that one was going to be pretty straightforward. I would have been a little bit surprised if there was any kind of variance. And I think the only question mark we really had going into this tournament was Tegan Micah and her fitness levels. But look, if she's fit, she is the second best goalkeeper that we have. So I can't complain too much. It would have been interesting if she wasn't, and the decision they would have gone in that regard, because I think if you look at the next best goalkeeper, it probably is Jada Wyman. But Lydia Williams, look, I don't want to say we should be taking her just because it's her last chance to play in the Matilda side, but she is a key part of the dressing room. I think it might have been interesting if someone was picked ahead of her. But yeah, I don't know. It would have probably been a little bit more interesting and maybe a bit more discussion worthy if Tegan Micah was injured, but she isn't. So it's a pretty straightforward pick, in my opinion.
100%. What does Jada have to do to kind of get a sniff around this team? Is it just abiding time at this point? Michelle, is this kind of that, now she'll be flooded into that rotation with Lydia stepping back after Paris?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, obviously, like, the development is different, right, for all the players, and I think that's the main thing. We know that Jada has obviously been getting good minutes, and I mean, I think everyone can kind of agree that she was being trained to be the next Lydia Williams, from a young age and for a very long time. And Tegan Micah has come in and done a solid job, especially the last Olympics. I think Tegan Micah really proved herself to be a solid goalkeeper. And I think with that, Jada's kind of had to take a step back. But yeah, I think with Lydia retiring inevitably, and now, this will be her last tournament, and she's only going in as a train-on player as well, so she's probably not going to be in the matchday squad as well. But yeah, I think at this point, Jada's still super young, and all she needs to do is just, I guess, bide her time, keep showing up for Sydney and keep playing well in Clubland, and her time will come. And I'm sure that, once this sort of friendly, this tournament is done, then we'll get into the friendlies again, and then hopefully she'll get a chance to go out and make her senior debut.
100%. All right, moving forward to our defenders. Catley, Carpenter, Hunt, Kennedy, Polks, and Torpy. No super big surprises here. I think my question mark in that list is Polks. We saw at the World Cup that she wasn't really up to defending against the pace of especially England when she stepped in when AK was injured. We're going to be coming up against some pretty speedy sides in Germany and the US pushing forward. Is dropping someone like Charlie Grant with that speed and versatility in multiple positions in this circumstance a good idea? Michelle, what's your opinions across our defensive backs that we've got here?
I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are naturally frustrated. I'm quite frustrated as well, if I'm going to be honest. I think Charlie Grant, when Ellie was injured, Charlie came in and really, in my opinion, really proved why she should be in the Matilda squad, and why she's been selected. And I think, to me, that she's also a versatile player. I feel like Charlie can play as a fullback and as a centre back, and that's what Tony's requirement was for when he was looking at these squads. He wanted people to be able to play multiple positions in case of any injury, which makes complete sense. I also think Charlie has been probably playing a bit better than Polks, been more consistent in her game time. And like you said, she's also younger, and I think she probably has more. She can probably do a bit more than what Polks can at this point. And that's not to disrespect Polks at all, because she's obviously been great for the Matildas for a long time. But that's the thing, she's been great for them for a long time. But when are we going to start trusting in these younger players? And this is something that's been said for a long time as well. When are we going to start trusting the younger ones? And it continuously feels like he's not trusting these younger players. I just think, realistically, Polkenhorn is probably the one who should be on that reserve squad, and Charlie Grant should probably be in the actual squad, the playing squad. And look, like, obviously anything can happen. Someone can pick up an injury and whatnot. Hopefully not. We don't want any injuries. But yeah, it does feel a bit slack to Charlie, who's pretty much done everything that she can to prove why she should be in the squad, and is still not selected.
100%. I think we saw that on socials too when the squad was announced. Everybody was quite surprised by that omission. Caitlin Torpy coming in as that kind of Swiss Army knife of players in the back there, Cody. What do you see when you look at these six players? Obviously, we've got that core in Catley, Carpenter, Hunt, Kennedy. What else would you have liked to see here, or are you happy with how things are shaped out?
It's a tough one because you mentioned the core. You got the four main centre backs, main defenders, and frankly, our starting back line's pretty set in stone. And in my opinion, it's quite good as well. I wouldn't in that part of the field. I think we're pretty solid. I don't think there's any room for controversy or even a lot of room for debate in terms of who you're starting. The when you look at it, the next part of the side, the depth of it, that's probably where it gets a little bit touchy. I think, look, Caitlin, I think she's a fantastic player. Play both sides, can go forward as well. I don't know if she offers more than what Charlie Grant does. I think that's probably the only question I have. But even then, even if Charlie Grant does offer more, it's very, very slim margin. So if that's the call that Tony wants to make, if that's who he's got his trust in at this point in time, I think that's fair enough. And look, I think within every team, you've got to have one kind of form player that goes into the tournament off a bit of a red hot streak, and 2024 has been extremely kind to Caitlin Torpy, so I'm not opposed to her kind of being that player. It's harsh on Charlie Grant, and it's not just that she's a fan favourite and people love her, and people are going a little bit chaotic not seeing her in the squad. But look, like Michelle said, she's been a bit of a mainstay, stepped up when we needed someone in a right back role. So to cut her is a bit harsh, but that's Olympics football. I get it. It can be a little bit harsh at times. Polkinghorne, I'd probably echo the same concerns that Michelle says. She has been great for the Matildas for a long time, but I think my concern with her is the fact that, yeah, she's been great for a long time, but you look at how she went in the 2022 World Cup, she was not great in that semi-final against England. I think the last thing you need is Kennedy or Hunt pick up a knock, pick up an injury. She comes in, she's not at the same standard. Yeah, that costs us a game, and suddenly her beautiful Matilda's career and legacy that she's built in for God knows how long is kind of ruined because her last two major tournaments she came in and wasn't at the level that she needed to be. And it's not even a thing of age, because the reality is I'd actually be quite confident if we had Ivy Lewick in the side, even though she's 3 years older. But I think Polkinghorne, it's visible that she's getting to a point where she is a little bit past it. And I mean that with all the respect in the world, of course. But
yeah,
I think after this tournament, there's got to be some honest conversations going, okay, we need someone else that can come into the side. And it may even be failing on Tony and the selectors in terms of not having that succession plan and not having a centre-back come in, at least for a few games here or there, and go, okay, even if it's not for this Olympics, but afterwards, you're going to be important in the lead up to the Asian Cup. We're going to start slowly getting you ready now, so that way when the preparation for the Asian Cup does start, you're not being thrown in the deep end. You know,
I'll throw it to you now, Cody. What in that pipeline? Who is that next logical step? Is an out-and-out centre-back, not someone that can drift out wide like Charlie can. Who are you bringing in as that out-and-out centre-back?
I wouldn't even say I wouldn't even have Charlie Grant as a thought for a centre-back. I think if you're putting her in there, but maybe you shift
in this case, right? If we're bringing her into this squad to replace Polks, she
we're bringing in
that ability. But if we were to have a out-and-out centre-back, who's next in that pipeline for you?
I can give you 3 names. And it's 3 names that I've said on this podcast before. You got Winona Heatley, you got Matilda McNamara, and you got Charlotte McLean. Any 3 of them, I think, can step up into the Matildas, and I think it would have been nice to see. We've seen Matilda McNamara get a debut, even if it was a little bit a while ago now. We've seen Winona Heatley in a couple of squads. I would have liked to have seen her get a bit of game time over one of the last 2 games. I think even if it was just 20 minutes, just so she can get a few touches on the ball as a Matilda and I guess understand the feeling and the aura that there is in playing for this side. Before then, you kind of lead her into the Asian Cup and go, okay, now you've got to get used to being, even if it's not a starting player, a key player. But and Charlotte McLean, I think someone that in the next maybe 6 months we should be trying to work in as well. I think her, especially this season, has been absolutely massive. It's definitely been the best I've ever seen her play. Michelle, sorry for accidentally disrespecting you at the start of this podcast. When we first did the early episodes for not including her in my original debate. But no, I think any 3 of them.
I told you, the stats don't lie.
Oh,
the stats don't lie.
Yeah, look, sometimes maybe stats don't lie, but sometimes they don't tell the full story. But I think in this, that's probably a useless thing to say right now because in this case they do. You've got 3 centre backs there that you can pull in. And reality is you've got 3 centre backs there that you could have incorporated already. Seeing if someone can at least push for that spot that Polkinghorne's holding. I don't know if it's that they maybe don't have the guts to drop someone like Polkinghorne because she has been in the squad for so long. But look, at the end of the day, we just spoke about the Olympics being ruthless. You kind of have to make those decisions as well. So that's probably the only thing that's disappointing for me in terms of the whole 18, in all honesty. The rest of it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Do you have any names you add to that list, Michelle, in terms of centre-backs to look at?
Well, I was just going to ask Cody. So, with those names that you've mentioned, those 3 names, and then we're looking at these, like the current centre backs that we have in Polks, Hunt, and Alana Kennedy. I guess when we look at the way that the centre back pairings work, right? We look at usually you want like someone who's more senior, and then maybe someone who's a bit younger, right? Just in terms of like development. I guess what would be in the future, say Polks is retired by this point and Alana and Claire Hunt are now the 2 seniors. Who do you think would be the next ideal sort of centre back pairing with those 2 if you could choose those 2 as like your senior figures?
the reality is, I think you get out of that partnership, you at least get the next Asian Cup, maybe even the next World Cup. So you're not looking for a new partnership until, say, the 2020, what would it be, 2028 Olympics. That's probably when you're looking for a new partnership. By then, Hunt's probably your senior starting centre back, I think.
So if you do that, pretty much age-wise, AK is where Polks is and Hunt's where AK is.
Yeah, and
looking at 2028.
I'm not even looking at it in terms of age.
I can't see AK dropping off that much in the next couple of years anyway.
Years.
Yeah.
4 years is a long time in football. 4 years should be a long time in football. But it's hard to say in 4 years' time. You've got 3 centre-backs there that can probably do the job, and you don't know what's going to come through as well. Alexia Apostolakis could go on a nice meteoric rise. Naomi Shinema, Ella Tonkin, they've had some good performances at a youth level. So there's a lot of options there that kind of can come in and be that next fresh face. If I had to put my money on anyone right now, I'd say Winona Heatley. If by the 2028 Olympics, maybe she's the one that comes in, partners Claire Hunt. Like I was trying to say before, it's not really a thing of age for me. I think by the next 4 years' time, Hunt's just going to have a lot of experience where she can lead a Matildas backline on her own, even if she was still, say, 26, 27. I don't think she'll hit 30 by then. I don't know. She can't be older than 26 right now, is she?
She's 24, 25.
Okay, yeah, she's a bit older than I thought. She was still around 23, 24. That is my bad. But yeah, look, if I had to put my money on anyone, it'd be Winona Heatley. But if you're talking 4 years down the track, we've got more than 3 options. Like, I'm talking 3 options now. By then, we will, and we probably should have more, even if you're looking even younger. Ruby Cuthbert, Brisbane Royal centre-back, only got a few games this season, but someone that's definitely been highly rated in the in the junior Matilda setup. So there's options everywhere. I think in terms of development progression, we'll be fine in that regard. I can pick a name out of a hat now, but things change between now and then massively. Michelle, you'd know it yourself. It's a long time in football between now and the next Olympics.
Yeah. Love that. Cody, your insight sometimes is very well missed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was actually really good. And we also, just touching on that as well, we saw Claire Hunt kind of come up out of nowhere as well. She went from nowhere near the squad to a mainstay now.
That's what I mean. If you asked in 2020 or 2021 who the next centre-back partnership was going to be, I don't think I would have even known who Claire Hunt was. In all honesty, the injuries were tearing her apart that much. She wasn't even a thought. So there could be a nice injury-prone centre-back out in the middle of Canberra somewhere that we haven't even thought of right now.
100%. All right, let's move on to the middle of our lineup. Sorry, my brain just went blank, guys. That was my bad. KCC, Fowler, Gorey, Egmond, Wheeler, and Yallop. A pretty stark mix between experience and I would still would call our new guys pretty experienced in Kyra, Mary, and Claire, to be fair. This is actually a pretty solid midfield lineup. What do you guys see here? What are you liking the look of? Are there any question marks around any of these players, Cody?
You talk about the stark difference between the experience and inexperience. Of those midfielders, the person with the least amount of caps is Claire Wheeler, and she has 21.
Yeah.
That's, for that being our base level, that is really, really good. And frankly, we've all seen her play. We know she can come in and do a job.
I literally did it this week.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. To come on for 2 seconds. Smallest girl on the pitch, or if she isn't, very close
Heads
to it.
Heads a ball into the back of the net.
Bloody hell, man. Look, I had a lot of things that I thought would happen or might happen on Monday night. Claire Wheeler being an aerial threat probably wasn't one of them. But look, the names there are pretty stock standard. There's no one off the top of my head that I look at and go, damn, I can't believe they weren't picked. I think it's more how they're used and probably the pecking order that they're in within the squad. I think Claire Wheeler should probably be head of the pecking order to, say, Tamika Yallop. I don't know if that'll be the case. I don't know what Tony technically favours. But it's probably how they're used within the what do you call it? The sphincter, not sphincter. I don't know what I was looking at there. The sphere. Sphere. That's the wrong SPH word. the sphere that they were kind of named. I think it's in terms of the pecking order, that's probably where I'd have my questions. But the players that were named, I've got no issue with. You're talking, you need experience going into a tournament. That's where probably Van Egmond and Yellow comes into it. I don't know how much I think they would warrant being ahead of some of those other names. Mary Fowler's probably obvious 10. I don't think that she's suited, at least in this side, to playing the majority of her games out wide. I'd rather her in the centre, get her on the ball as much as possible. So it's just about who you have behind her. And you've got our best centre mid partnership by far is Cooney, Cross and Gorry. So stick to that as much as you can during the tournament. And I think you'll be okay.
I will throw this to you. Gorry's been left out of the last squad through an injury, Michelle. We've seen Sam being ruled out. How do you feel about Kat coming back into this squad after coming off something like an ankle injury? Is it a smart pick, or are you happy with her being there for the experience?
I mean, I think Minnie is always really solid, even when she is injured, to be honest. I think she's just one of those players who just shows up when you need her to. I think her going off to West Ham, like, she lit that team on fire. I don't know what it was. I mean, they were...
They
They're
didn't
so
look
lucky.
good at all.
No, they're lucky that Bristol City existed, because otherwise they'd be, probably close to looking at relegation. And then Minnie comes in and is like, okay, you guys, you need to play football to actually, stay in the top flight. So I think, Minnie, I think she's always going to be a good selection for this squad for the time being.
Yeah.
The thing is, because she plays so tough and so quick, and she just plays a lot, I think she's going to probably retire sooner than we would like, just from like the way that she plays.
Yeah.
And I think she's hinted at it before as well.
I think she's hinted that she's going to do it after this tournament.
Yeah, I think she's hinted that this is going to be the last time that we'll see her in a Matilda shirt, which is fine. Like, she's in her 30s and she's got, family and stuff now as well, and probably wants to be a bit more settled. So in saying that, I think, yes, like, having her in the squad is always going to be good. If she can if Cooney Cross kind of picks up the way that she sort of plays, or if Cooney Cross gets more minutes and whatever, then she'll be like that next sort of player. I think Claire Wheeler, I think it would be unfair if Tamika Yallop plays over Claire Wheeler. I think Wheeler has been a better player, has been more consistent in her minutes, and has been, just utilized those minutes more than Tamika Yallop has. I think, again, another player that is aging, another player that, we're looking at probably thinking this might be the last tournament that she plays in.
Probably in the same boat as Minnie as well, family, wanting to stay settled.
Well, I think personally, and I could be wrong here, I could be completely off base, but I think half the reason why she's gone back to Australia and gone back to Brisbane, where she lives, is probably because she wants to just kind of relax for a bit, which is so fair, and like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think if that's the case, then Tony also, I think, needs to see that in the players and be like, all right, well, if this is your last hurrah, then I have a tournament that I need to win, and I need the informed players to actually play, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. When the eventuality of, let's say, those two do hang up the boots after this year, the experience then falls to EVE in the mids. I would say that she would probably... Michelle says that laughing in the background. But like, that, it's genuinely the way it rolls, like, if you look at that, right? Who are we bringing in to fill those spots, and do we have... Is Kyra or is Claire at that point where they can lead that kind of midfield and keep it strong? Because we've got Minnie and Emily really leading that midfield at the moment, and is that leadership baton able to be passed to anyone that you see at the moment, Cody?
It'll take a few years. I don't think you're going to get an instantaneous impact from anyone that we have at the moment that can do what Katrina Gorry does. And you see it the way we've played recently without her as well. Things don't seem to be ticking as well as what they do when she's there. Funnily enough, even though they're kind of partnering each other and doing slightly different roles in the side currently, Cooney Cross probably does seem like the natural successor to Gorry in doing what she does. As much as Cooney Cross, like, she's able to settle on the ball a little bit. She does have a little bit of mongrel about her, can get stuck in the same way Gorry does as well, and then get the ball, keep things calm, dictate play from a deeper area, which is crazy to think about considering Cooney Cross did spend her younger years as more of an advanced midfielder, or even a winger at some stages, if you will. But she's probably a natural successor, but it's still going to take probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4 or 5 years before she's at that level where she can bring in the same output that Katrina Gorry is going to do. Who her partners are? Claire Wheeler in the meantime, Sarah Hunter probably comes in eventually. I think it's nice that we've blooded her already, given her exposure to the Matildas side. So next time she comes in, she probably is acutely aware of the kind of standard that she needs to be at. As much as, look, maybe I think the question could be asked if she was brought in too early. The answer is probably yes. But I think you'd rather her be brought in too early than too late. That's the way I think things, see things anyway. That's one midfield. There's probably a few that are in the A-League women's at the moment that just aren't coming to my head. Taylor Ray is someone that's had a little bit of experience already. It depends on what her next move is. I guess depends on how that'll track moving forward. But it'll definitely be interesting. Even someone like Laura Hughes was doing good with the under-23s in the last break as well. She's someone that, as she keeps growing the way she does, maybe even gets herself into a professional environment. The things that she can do on the ball, she can do that but better. She's someone that could definitely make that step up into the Matilda squad. There's a few names around it. The depth in this country, especially in under-23s players, is genuinely insane. And it probably didn't show enough during that Four Nations tournament that they just played at. I think a lot of people look at the results of that and go, oh, we have nothing coming through. We look shit. Watch those games. We're not shit. Yeah. That 3-0 loss to Germany, up until their second goal, it was extremely even. And even the goals they did score, I can't remember if it was the first or second goal. It might have actually been the third. The first was the own goal. Third goal they scored, genuinely one of the best hits of a ball I've seen this year. Nothing you can do about it. But no, there's talent coming through this country. It's kind of insane to think about, especially this next age that's coming up between the 20s and the 23s. That group, if you can get that group right, get them in environments where they can be full-time, whether that's Australia or overseas. Unfortunately, only one looks like it's going to be that option at this present moment. But we'll have 5 Katrina Gorries, 5 Claire Hunts, a few KCCs in there, maybe even 1 or 2 Sam Kerrs. But there's, you talk about who's coming next. It's hard to pick because it's genuinely, for every player that you're looking at, there's 3 or 4 options that if they're developed right, it could be that girl.
All eyes to Colombia. So, yeah, for anyone that's not aware or hasn't been on socials, under 23s World Cup in September 20s. Is going to be under 20s World Cup in September in Colombia. So that'll be a good moment for us to kind of catch who's coming through the ranks and see what our future Matilda squad is going to look like. Not much has changed up front. Hateman in for Kerr, which I think is probably the most like for like that we were ever going to get in terms of a Sam replacement, and Michelle's come in and done exactly what she needed to do, and that's put the ball in the back of the net, which with the form that she's got in a gold jersey and even in the A-League, I'm more than stoked with seeing that. Michelle, how do you feel about our forward pack going towards this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty solid. I don't really have anything against it. I think this is pretty expected. You know, with Fordinho, Haley Rasso, Michelle Heyman, I think it's pretty standard. Can't complain really. Michelle Heyman, I think, was so unlucky not to get a goal against China in the first half of the second game. Did absolutely everything right, and then just hit it wide. That would have been a great goal if she got it in. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, not not much to say really. I think it's pretty
stock
pretty
standard.
solid. Yeah.
Cody, anything to add here?
No, like Michelle said, it's stock standard the way the forwards have kind of shot out ahead of the rest of the competition as well. I
Yeah.
genuinely, off the top of my head, can't really think of many names that would even challenge. I'm trying to think of even who was in the World Cup squad, but the reality is it was Kai Simon that was sitting behind him, and I don't think she's in a position where she could push for an Olympic squad. Sian Fry is the
Backup here.
alternate player. I don't think she's going to challenge any of them for a spot in the main squad. Even there's probably people that are closer to challenging for that alternate
Amy
player
Sayer.
rather than being Amy Sayer.
If she wasn't injured.
If she wasn't injured, yeah, she's probably someone that. But even then, like if you're talking, we're only taking 4 forwards. I don't think I could have Amy Sayer in there. I don't think I'd put her ahead of any of these girls. Maybe maybe she challenges for a midfield spot, that's probably where she's probably going to have better luck getting into the side. But if you're talking taking her as a forward, it's not a knock on Amy Sayer or the rest of the competition, but these 4 are just really, really good footballers. That's the best. That's the best way I can say it.
I would say I still am not sure why Sian Fry's in the squad.
Well, let's go to this now because that was the next segue. So Sian's probably the one here. I would even put a question mark next to Nevin. She's been in and out of the squad recently. So off the reserves, Lid's pretty much that's a given. Charlie, super unlucky not to make the 18. Sian and Nevin, what are your opinions here? Let it air out, Michelle. Like honestly, she's like no knock to Sian, but she's literally come from nowhere to be in this squad. What are you seeing here?
Yeah. Well, look, the thing with Nevin is that again, this is a player that can be, she can play in different positions. She can play as a left back. She can play as a centre back. Do we want her as a centre back? Absolutely not. That is not a position that she should be playing in. It happened once and it was terrible. But she can play there if worst comes to worst. The absolute worst comes to worst. The Sian Fry thing to me just it's just a giant question mark purely because
does it make sense to anybody? Like I don't.
It makes sense to Brisbane people, I suppose, but I mean, realistically, from what I've seen, she's not been someone that I've been like, yeah, wow, what a standout player.
Yeah.
She scored 3 goals, 5 assists in like 22 games or something like that in the A-League women's season, which I'm sorry, that is not Matilda's level. That is not acceptable to be a forward at the Matildas level. Not even good enough to be a midfielder at the Matildas level, really. I just think, yeah, we need to take a look and think, is this the best forward that we can get or the best midfielder that we can get for an Olympic squad? Was there absolutely no one else? Was there no one else that has been succeeding in this position? And like, I'm sick, so don't ask me to think of anything right now because I can barely do this. But yeah, I don't know. I just when she first was announced for the squad, I was like, why?
Yeah.
As it like not even for the Olympic squad. When she got announced for her first camp, I was like, why? Where did she come from? She was playing at NPL. She was playing at Brisbane, obviously Brisbane Roar, and then played at NPL. Where her sister allegedly is in more team of the weeks than she is. So, it just there's a lot of question marks, and this is why I get frustrated with the selections with the squad because I'm like, you're telling players one thing, tell them go overseas, tell them to do this, tell them to do that, and then they do it, and then they don't get selected for the Matildas, and then you're telling them don't play in the A-League because they won't get selected, and then all of a sudden everyone's getting selected from the A-League, which is fine, which is great, I love that, but at least select players on merit.
Yeah.
Select them on for good reason. And sorry if Sean Fry's listening, but bruh.
Cody, I'll throw it to you to fill in the gap here. Give us some names that could fill this spot that are out there that we're not thinking of at the
I'm
moment.
going to play devil's advocate first. Because,
here we
look,
go.
I did some digging. And first of all, I'm just going to throw a few stats out there.
They say that if someone is always playing the devil's advocate, you should not be friends with them. So
I'm
It's the only reason we have Cody here, guys. So Michelle and I aren't
I'm
too
playing both sides of
opinionated.
the coin because on one hand, if you look at numbers, there's some numbers that back her up. On the other hand, I did say at the start of this podcast, stats don't always tell you the full story. And that's where I think this kind of comes in. Big chances created this season. Sean Fryer actually created the same amount of big chances as Courtney Vine. Where is it? Chances created. Mackenzie Hawkesby actually was the top in that regard, which considering she only played half the season is insane. But Sean Fryer was third, 42 chances created across the season. Personally, I don't think 8 goal contributions in 22 games for how Brisbane were is probably a decent record because Brisbane were, let's be real, kind of bad. I genuinely thought they were going to come last at one stage. Successful dribbles per 90, she's in the top 6, 7. If you're talking about just Australian players, the only players that are ahead of her are Courtney Vine and Milan Hammond, who I don't think actually played that many games. So it's really only Courtney Vine. It's funny because I think physically, in terms of, probably the physical side of the game, she has a lot of similarities to Courtney Vine, which I think is why Tony's looked at her as an option, why it's caught her eye. And if you look at numbers, she's up there with some of the best in the competition. But
if you're going based on that, Mackenzie Hawkesby has higher numbers.
Let me finish. What I was going to say.
That's exactly where he's going.
What I was going to say is numbers don't tell you the full story. The players that I'd probably compare her to in this regard the player I'd probably compare her to is Daniela Galic. Daniela Galic doesn't have the same numbers as Sean Fryer. Why though? Because Daniela Galic has Amina Ekic, Rihanna Policina, and Laura Hughes around her, who's taking some of those chances away from her, is Melbourne City looking at as other avenues to get forward. Brisbane Roar had Sean Fryer as their creative outlet, and that was kind of basically it, if I'm being honest. There wasn't a good side. I think Sean Fryer is a good player. I'll be honest with in that regard. I think if she wasn't playing this Matilda side, she'd be a shoo-in for the 23s team that just went over to Sweden. And she'd probably be a starting player in that team, if I'm being completely honest. What I'll probably think would have been a better option for us to do if we were unsure about taking a forward or who is next in line, push on fire on that 23 side, see how they play as a collective, see who stands out in that Four Nations tournament, and probably the best one out of that, go, okay, let's take them as a backup for the Matildas. If Sean Fryer went over there and did that, I definitely wouldn't be arguing it. I'm not going to say I'm surprised and disappointed anyway that she's getting these chances, because there's a base level of ability there. I think it's more that there's players around her that probably are more deserving of an opportunity. And I say that very loosely because that's a subjective term as well. I'm a big Daniela Galic fan, if you guys haven't worked that out. And I would love to see her incorporated in the Matilda squad. I say that knowing full well she's 18 years old and, stepping up to that level can be a daunting task. But this is also probably the second coming of Mary Fowler, while Mary Fowler's still in that process of reaching her best. But that's the thing though, if this was 5 years earlier, Daniela Galic is probably already a Matilda. So why we have a knack in this country recently where our best young players, we want to delay their progression into the first team, both in men's and women's. Michelle, I'm sure you can pick out exactly who I'm talking about in that regard. I don't know why we have this innate knack to do so. But look, there's elements to Sean Fryer's game I can see why she's been included. I think Daniela Galic probably could have done that job as well. Mackenzie Hawkesby, I think, deserves a shot at the Matilda. She's shown this season she's an absolute machine when it comes to chance creation. And we probably are missing an out-and-out 10 in this team, both in the main squad and in the reserves. So having someone like Hawkesby would probably fill that gap quite well. But other than that, I think and despite having ranted about this for 5 minutes, it is just an alternate player, so I don't think personally it's that big of a deal. Yeah, there's other players that you could probably look at. Yeah, there's other players I think could do it. But if that's who they want to give the opportunity to, and it's just a chance to go and train with the squad and just be a backup, because I'd be surprised if she does end up in the 18 altogether, I'm happy to just let it go.
But that's also
I'm
the
not
thing.
happy to let it go, actually,
Yeah,
because
why does that not surprise me, Michelle?
I don't think that this player really has earned her way to being into the senior team. I don't think that she has made any like point to be like, yep, I am one of the best players in this league right now. I don't think she has.
I'll tell you why I'm hesitant to agree.
Why?
Because the last time I tried to use that argument on someone, basically looked at both stats and team performance on why I didn't think they should be in the side, was Claire Hunt. And look where she is now.
Claire Hunt is an exception, not the rule.
But that's what I mean, exceptions happen.
But like Sean Fryer,
The chances of it happening in two back-to-back tournaments.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Josh. 100%. But I'm too nervous to make that call.
Watching her play, it's the same reason why everyone was like, why did we call up Larissa Crummer? You know? Why? Again,
That's
another
just giving
player.
me PTSD.
But this is the thing. This is another Queenslander, surprisingly, who just was subpar, scraped by, got a gig overseas, played in some no-name country, sorry, Norway, and then plays Champions League, and then everyone's like, yeah, great player. And then she retires. Like, you see, watching her play was not good. Larissa Crummer was not good. But like, the whole thing is, players should be at their absolute best, right? And if we're looking at players who are in similar positions and playing in the same league or whatever, I'm sorry, but she just is not in the same realm. Like, she's not in the same. It doesn't matter if she's with Brisbane. Tamika Yalp was in Brisbane, and Tamika Yalp still managed to stand out at Brisbane. You know, she was a bit flat at the start of the season. Then remember that she actually has to play football if she wants to make the Matilda squad, and then she actually had a good season, right? So it's like you can still stand out even in a terrible squad. And obviously it's harder to stand out in a team that's already good. You know,
Mackenzie Hawkesby
saved Sydney's.
She came back and was probably
Hawkesby,
nearly their player of the season.
Yeah, Hawkesby was members player of the season. Charlotte was the player of the season. But like, you know, when Macca came back, she saved Sydney's season. Yeah. She's the reason why Sydney was able to go through and win the grand final, in my opinion, or to get as far as they did. So, in my opinion, someone who maybe you have all these created chances, but you've created chances with nothing to show for it, right? They still finished dead. They finished out of the finals. She only had 3 goals. Like, I just don't think that is a player. I don't think any of her stats in the last 3 years were in the season before she had 1 goal and the season before she had 1 appearance. And I know she's young. I know she's still super young, but I don't think that means that she should be in the senior team. And I think that there are other players who could be in the senior team. And like you said, maybe we should be looking at the under 23s and, you know, giving them a boost. We've already got 2 players in the squad that are under 23, Mary Fowler and Cara Cooney-Cross, 21 and 22 respectively. So why, like you said, we should be looking at this under 23 squad and pushing them more into the senior squad because, well, they are the future and they need to be playing around the senior players. They need to learn how to play in that and I think if you're going to
bring them in as a train-on player as well, you bring someone like Daniela Galic into this, right? In that role where didn't Ellie make her first major tournament at 16 at an Olympics, something like that? Like,
she made the main squad, to be fair.
Yeah,
she
but like
16. Yeah.
But it's a similar thing, right? Like, if my issue is if someone like Michelle Heyman goes down with an injury, like if
that's the next option.
Yeah, this is like even if Razzo or Ford go down, or if Courtney goes down, Sean's going to be playing every game from there.
Honestly, Josh, I'll be honest with you, Josh. I think if one of them go down, I wouldn't be surprised to actually bring Charlie Green in first and use Torpy as winger. So it may not be as straightforward as that. I still think you're looking, if anyone goes down injured, Charlie Grant's straight in the squad. I don't think it matters where on the pitch it is, even if it's in midfield. The reality is Charlie Grant did break through as a midfielder in the early Adelaide days. So there's every opportunity. If someone goes down injured, it'd take 2 people to go down injured. And if 2 people go down injured, I'd be cursing our luck.
We're in trouble. All right, let's look at this squad as a whole. Give us the starting 11 that we're expecting for the first game against Germany. Pretty sure we're all in agreement it's going to be Macca between the sticks, barring some freak camp by Micah. Then we're going to have Catley, Carpenter, Hunt, and Kennedy in the back. What do you look at the midfield and go, cool, that's the midfield I want, Michelle?
Oh my God.
Yeah, sorry.
I think you'd put Mary in as 10.
Yeah.
I think you have to. I don't know. Probably depends on if Minnie is fit or not.
Okay.
But I'd probably start Cooney Cross, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think she'd be good there. And then, don't know, I can't think right now. This is too much for me.
Cody?
Look, for me, it's straightforward. It's Gorry, Cooney Cross, and Fowler. If Gorry's still 50-50, she's not 100%. Honestly, if I had to pick someone, I'd actually go Claire Wheeler. I'm big on her, in all honesty. I think she's a fantastic player. I've very rarely seen her disappoint when she's come into the Matilda side, especially when she has got kind of that core side around her as well. She knows how to kind of step up to that level. She's probably not someone that can lead a midfield per se, but she's got Cooney Cross next to her, Fowler in front of her, and our 2 main centre backs behind her. She'll be perfectly fine.
My only thing with that would be does Mini, EVE, or Meeks have that spark factor ability when you need to bring a midfielder on half at 60, 70 minutes to kind of reignite everybody?
Well, yeah, that's bringing them on, not starting them, though.
Yeah, but do they have that ability? Like, I would say, like, if you put Claire on, she showed it during the World Cup at one point. I think even in the semi-final, I think they brought her on at right back or something like that. And she just
Claire
had
Wheeler?
that. Was it Claire?
Mini, yes.
Did
yes.
Did Claire Wheeler get minutes before the third place playoff? I don't remember.
No.
Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But anyway.
I don't think she did.
Michelle answered my question. That's okay. Perfect. And I think we're going Ford, Razzo, and Heyman up front. I don't think Vine is kind of challenging for that starting role as
of yet.
It's a great player
to have off the bench, but
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, she'll be an impact player. Yeah. When you need the speed, need for speed.
We've mentioned last tournaments potentially for Gorry, last tournaments for potentially Meeks and Lids. Also, socials for the Matildas hinted that this is going to be Tony's last tournament as well. I don't know if I read too much into that, but his interview where he said this was potentially my last game on home soil.
He's been saying that for a bit.
Yeah. Is it if there's no first place, it's done and dusted for Tony, do you guys think?
I think regardless, it should be done and dusted. Thank you, Tony, for what you've done. He's done a great job for the most part. I think there's been a lot of positives. I think he brought the team back to being a positive environment. I think that was really important. Obviously, we want the girls to be liking playing the game. So I think he's done that as a very positive thing. But I do think that there's been as well just, God, those teething issues were not fun. And I think as well, just the lack of trust he has in players. And again, whether or not this is his decision on selecting squads or not, but I think just the not trusting the younger players and not making the correct, or not making enough substitutions during the World Cup really was his downfall.
Yeah. Cody?
In the World Cup.
I will always have a ton of respect for that beautiful Swedish man. He's probably, in terms of football at least, he has helped me create one of my happiest memories. But I think tactically there's clear deficiencies. The reality is, I think it's in his court. He's done enough for this side, at least on paper, that he should be able to make the decision. Unless we genuinely have a shocking tournament and come last in our group, I wouldn't be pushing him out the door. But I'd be surprised if he even wants to stay on. He's had offers from elsewhere that are probably going to earn him a bit more money if the opportunity to coach the Swedish national team's still on the table. I'd be very surprised if he turns that down, not just because it's men's football, not because it's men's football, I mean, but because that's your home country, to be able to lead your home country. That's got to be the highest honour for me in football as a manager. That should be the number one thing that you want to achieve. When he was offered that job, I'm actually surprised he stayed on for the Olympics. There's a lot of people that would have taken it there and then, because opportunities like that don't come around every day. But no, look, if he does go, I won't be sad. I don't think he's been bad. Could things have been better? Yes, but the reality is, on a world stage, we haven't been unsuccessful under him. So there's clear positives, not just off the field, but on the field that he's brought as well. I can complain about how he sets his team up and how they move the ball around all day, every day. The reality is, he got results for us. I think that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. But I wouldn't mind seeing an Australian coach come in and take these girls. I want someone that can keep that positive environment, have a bit of a laugh with them, be kind of a mother or father figure. But I would like someone that is going to be a bit ruthless, both with who you're calling up and who you kind of help move on when, I guess, their time at the top levels pass as well.
Yeah.
Who that person is, I don't know. I have names that swirl through my head.
That's my next question. So if you want to throw some out, that's where I'm heading.
Look, I think everyone's kind of first point of call would be Joe Montemurro. I think that's, I guess, the obvious pick that everyone wants. Whether he wants the job or not, it's probably up to him. I think if he wants it, I'd be surprised if the FA don't negotiate with him straight away. I think there's coaches within the youth setup. I've heard a lot of positives about Mel Andriotto, who is coaching the 23s at the moment. Leah Blaney, I'm a fan of. I don't know if they're quite ready for a senior Matildas job. That's probably the only deficiency there. I got one name that came in my head the other day, and I've wanted to kind of ask someone about it because I haven't had the chance yet. So what better time to do it than on record, where this is the first time I've actually said it? Yeah, I know. Michelle, be scared. Someone like Patrick Hisnorbo, if he went into the role.
Michelle, this is all you.
I'm gonna say no. So no, it's gonna be a no from me.
Otherwise, you got your obvious candidates within the A League. Ante Juric probably got to be in that conversation as well.
Would you put like Emma Husband or Kat Smith in that conversation as well?
I'd like to see.
Not yet.
No, Emily Husband, I think, is a few years off.
Yeah, I think Emma Husband could probably get there at some point, but I would, like Cody said, a few years off. But I'd like to see her coach the national team at some point, but it would be way too soon if she was to go from MPL to A-League to national team in the span of 3 years.
What an origin story. Wins a World Cup in her first major tournament. Let's go. All right. Let's look at the Olympics. It's taken an hour for us to get there. This can be a nice long one for all you listening at home. But Cody, do you want to run us through how this tournament actually works, what we're looking for, what we're looking at in terms of the group stages, and then heading forward into finals, what qualification looks like as well?
Qualification for the tournament or for the finals?
For the finals.
That makes sense.
To get out of groups.
The Olympics. There is 12 teams, 3 groups of 4. They play a group stage. Michelle, I know you had words with us about that. It's not technically a round robin. I know I'm assuming that's because we don't play everyone twice and because there is a final series afterwards. But technicality, the point is we play everyone in our group once. Top 2 are guaranteed to go through to the knockout stage. And the 2 best third place teams out of the 3 groups also proceed. So essentially, the aim is to finish top 2. If you finish in third, you've got a 2 in 3 chance of going through. So in saying that, every group is incredibly tough, and even finishing in the top 3 is kind of an achievement. Going to the knockout stages, I just want to get the tree up because I kind of want to see how it does work. If you win your group, you will either be playing one of the third place teams or the runner-up of Group C. If you're a runner-up, unless you're in Group C, you play each other. And if you come third, you are guaranteed to play one of the group winners, which will either be Group A or Group C, whoever wins that group. For the Matildas, we're in Group B. We have the US, Zambia, and Germany. if we win that group, let me just pull it up, sorry, we play the runner-up of Group C. If we are the runner-up, we play the other runner-up in Group A. If we come third, we either play the group winner of Group A or Group C. So it's pretty straightforward. There's certain paths that are quite defined, even though the fact that there are variances in which third place team goes through, it can kind of screw up where certain teams can be on the draw. But otherwise, it's as straightforward as it can be. I guess it's probably the best way to put it. But yeah, look, it's a pretty simple tournament. Group stage, play each other once, don't come last, and if you came third, be good at it. But yeah,
Next time
it's a stock
Cody to do
standard
one of
international
these.
football tournament.
I'm going to give Cody a chalkboard next time he does one of these. We're going to have like a Blues Clues episode with Cody.
Oh, don't let my parents see that one. They'll tell you some stories.
So that is your rundown of the Olympics. We will come back in a couple of weeks to give you an in-depth look at what teams we're going to be facing. Also have a look around the tournament to what teams we think could be making out of the groups in A and C, because there are some cracking matchups happening all across this tournament. We are going to be off for the next 2, maybe 3, maybe a little longer. You might
I'm
not see us
definitely
for
off for 3 weeks.
You're definitely not going to see us for about another month. We'll probably pick things up just before the tournament kicks off with any news or updates to keep up to date. We will have everything on social. So if there's any last minute squad changes or anything like that, we will have it all on our socials at Talking Tillies. Thank you for joining us for our first look at the Olympic Games for Paris 2024. We will see you very soon for our next episode covering the games. Goodbye.